Hello everyone and welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is episode 80 and this is a series where we get to touch base and talk a little bit about various mythological creatures, beasts, beings, and the like pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I am not a linguist. So if I mispronounce anything along the way, I apologize in advance. Now with that said, for my 80th creature feature, I've chosen the Leviathan. So this is a recognizable name for many people, but the Leviathan is essentially this gigantic, enormous, gargantuan sea serpent-like creature pulled from various theologies and mythologies. It is featured multiple times throughout the Hebrew Bible in various books within it, and is essentially the embodiment of chaos, and is a creature whose kind of endgame supposedly is to consume or eat the damned in their afterlife. Now, with that said, in the end of the story of the Leviathan, we'll get into this a little bit more in a few minutes, but the Leviathan, as ferocious of a creature will in the end be annihilated itself. So there is an end game for it. It will be defeated in the end, and there is hope. So in Christian theologies, this creature is kind of more or less viewed is in an association with the demon that is the embodiment of the deadly sin envy, interestingly enough. But if you read a lot about the Leviathan, and there is so much material about it and the various times it appears, and again, the variety of theologies and mythologies that all discuss the Leviathan, there are a lot of parallels to other great mythological creatures, including Tiamat from Mesopotamia and Jormundir, which is the world serpent from Norse mythology. So there are some paralleling creatures, these massive serpent-like, especially with the Jormundir, massive serpent-like or sea serpent-like creature. But the Leviathan has quite a powerhouse of abilities. Depending on your source, it could have breath, this hot breath that is so, again, hot, that it can actually boil the waters around it. Other people claim that it actually just breathes fire and has impenetrable scales and pretty much is this indomitable entity, and almost would look like it would be immortal and impossible to destroy. Yet again, the lore always states that the Leviathan will be destroyed towards the end of time. Now, also to go along with the Leviathan, there's some people view a big counterpart to it, and this would be from Jewish sources, the behemoth. And the behemoth is this desert-based land animal. And in this particular set of lore, the behemoth is a male creature, again, land and desert and this acrid, dry ecosystem, and the Leviathan is this female entity, this giant female entity that is water-based. So again, very polar opposite sides, almost kind of like yin-yang, polar opposite forces. Now, other sources are totally different and say there actually was both a male and female Leviathan originally, but that God looked at these massive creatures and realized if they began to procreate and have offspring, the world would be destroyed because of that. And so out of fear of what could happen, the female Leviathan in this story is destroyed early on, and the male is the one that will be slain towards the end of time. Now, again, there are so many sources, and the difference, between is the Leviathan male or female, whatever it is, we most often agree it is the only one of its kind now. So it is this by itself, this almost, I guess, kind of a lonesome entity, even though we view it as this fearsome, negative, antagonist-like creature. One source actually was describing the size of the Leviathan. Again, this is a massive creature. As I mentioned before, does kind of have some parallels to the Jormundir, the world serpent, where the world serpent in Norse mythology is so large it can wrap around Earth, the world of Midgard, the land of mankind. But the Leviathan was described in one source as actually being around 300 miles long. So that is a massive creature, and supposedly it exists within the Mediterranean, kind of near the Jordan area of the Mediterranean. But I think one of the most fascinating bits of lore is some people claim that the Leviathan's most feared entity is this almost microscopic, this small worm called the kilbit. And this worm is known to cling on the gills of fish and in the end kill its host. And because of this, doesn't matter that the Leviathan is 300 miles long, its biggest fear is this tiny little worm that it's always trying to evade and try to prevent itself from being hunted by this pretty small creature. Anywho, I thought that was kind of really interesting. And again, going to the lore in the end, the Leviathan will be destroyed. Some sources say after it dies, it'll actually be fed to the righteous. Again, this very religious-oriented creature. So now if you have any questions about this or anything else, please post them in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social media. I don't think I've talked about I can't remember if I've talked about the behemoth or not, but if I haven't, I'll definitely make one featuring the behemoth at a future date. And again, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your week, and until next time, Skull.